Well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon to all of you who have joined us. I'm Tad Bradley from the Kusini collection. I'm joined today by my colleagues Gretchen Healy and Vanessa Heyman, both from Kusini, different parts of North America, and by the co-founder and co-owner of Todo Santos Eco Adventures, Brian Howergy, who joins us from the place with definitely the best weather of the three of us, I would think, Todo Santos in Baja, California, sir. Hi, Brian. Thanks for being here.
Wouldn't miss it for the world.
And I'm sure your view is something similar to what you see on screen, but that is a idyllic shot from the main tent area of Camp Cecil de la Bahia on Magdalena Bay, which is the newest luxury tented camp that Todo Santos Eco Adventures has opened. And it just made its debut about 2 months ago, a month and a half ago, middle of January. And I was very lucky to spend part of last week looking at this very view, and I'm really excited to share with all of you my experience. Have Brian give you a little bit more background to this incredible location and answer any questions that you all may have about this camp, as well as how you can work it into an itinerary with Todo Santos Eco Adventures in Baja California, sir. If you have any questions, feel free to pop them into the chat. We'll get to them throughout or at the end. And as usual, we are recording, so we'll be able to share this with you, and you can share it with your colleagues and keep it on hand for reference, and find it on YouTube if you need to in the future. So without further ado, I'm going to jump in, give you a little bit, take a bit of a step back just to refresh those of you who are new to TOSEA and what their other properties are. Brian is sitting right there in Los Colibres Casitas, which is their home base. Brian and Sergio, her business partner and life partner, built Los Colibres basically by hand over the past couple of decades. It's a beautiful boutique hotel overlooking the Pacific Ocean in lovely Todos Santos, Mexico, which is about an hour and a half north of Cabo. And then there's the Camp Cecil. So the very first Camp Cecil was Camp Cecil de la Isla on Isla Espiritu Santo, followed shortly thereafter by Camp Cecil de la Sierra, which is up in the idyllic Sierra La Laguna Mountains. Yes, there are mountains in Baja, for those of you that didn't know. I also got to spend some time at Camp Cecil de la Sierra, my second trip there prior to going up to Magdalena Bay. Lovely camp, new location, amazing family that hosts the camp on their ranch in the Sierras. So definitely something to consider adding to your itinerary, and happy to chat about that for anyone offline should you have questions. Camp Cuevas is a really unique camp north of La Paz, partnered with the Cuevas family, who are former shark hunters turned conservationists. Gretchen actually went up to Camp Cuevas last year on a fam trip. So if you have questions about that experience, a really immersive marine conservation oriented type of trip with a limited window in June with scheduled departures. And I'm sure I believe there's space available. Brian can nod her head yes or no. Yes. So that's something to think about for this June. And then, of course, what we're all here today to talk about is the latest addition to the Camp Cecil portfolio, which is Camp Cecil de la Bahia. For those of you that don't speak Spanish, Bahia means bay. And Camp Cecil de la Bahia is on the idyllic Magdalena Bay, which is actually, let's go to a map to give you a bit more context. But as you can see here at Camp Cecil de la Bahia, this is Magdalena Bay. This is one of the lagoons or bays on the Pacific side of the Baja Peninsula that the gray whales spend time prior to starting one of the longest mammal migrations back up to the Bering Sea in Alaska. And this is where the mamas have their babies. The mamas teach the babies how to be whales, and where the whales feed or the babies at least feed and get some strength up to begin that really long epic journey northward. It's a very limited season. It's basically middle of January to middle of March when those gray whales, mostly mamas and babies, gather inside these protected lagoons off the Pacific to get ready for that long journey north. So logistically, Camp Cecil de la Bahia is about a 3-hour drive from La Paz, and roughly 3.5, 4 hours from Todos Santos, more or less, Brian. or a little bit more.
About it takes about 4.5 to get to Cancun from Los Colibris.
So it's really pairs very well with Camp Cecil de la Isla and Todo Santos in a nice 7 to 10 day itinerary. It's a very nice, easy drive from La Paz on a tarmac road almost the entire way off the highway. This is Highway 1, which goes the length of Baja California Sur all the way up to the U.S. border, and then you're off on a dirt track through kind of cactus forest scrubland until you reach Magdalena Bay and Cancun. But you didn't know there was another Cancun that's not on the other side of Mexico, Quintana Roo area, and there are no spring breakers at this Cancun, I promise you. And then from Cancun, this little tiny fishing village, it's about a 20 to 30 minute boat ride to the camp itself. We're going to zoom in here on the Magdalena Bay area. Here's Puerto Cancun. This is where the vehicles are left, and we hop in a boat and head out into Bahia Almejas, which is essentially an extension of Magdalena Bay. And camp is on this little sand spit right here. This basically separates Magdalena Bay and this beautiful mangrove lagoon, which you'll see some more photos of shortly. So that's the logistics. It is a 4-day, 3-night program that we have on offer. Essentially, 2026 is sold out, so we're looking ahead to 2027. We'll share with you dates and costs later in the presentation. But that's how you get to this really fantastic place to experience not only gray whales, but as you'll see, all kinds of other marine wildlife and other really exciting adventure activities. So we headed up to Puerto Cancun from La Paz. Again, as I said, nice 3.5 hour drive. Arrived in Puerto Cancun and hopped on a boat with Braulio, who is the boat captain, one of several, and he's just as important to this experience as our guides were. Braulio is from the area. He knows Magdalena Bay. He knows marine wildlife, and he's got a really comfortable, nice boat. And he nicely arranged for us to have a welcoming committee of dolphins, as you can see on the left there. As we're heading from Puerto Cancun to the camp, we had a pod of, I think, somewhere in the neighborhood of 10-ish dolphins surround our boat, and we stopped and just spent half an hour watching them swim around us and under us and show off. So that was a really nice marine wildlife welcoming committee. And then as we got closer to camp, camp came into view. You can see the tents over there on the left, and on the right is the main area. And there, aside from the dolphins and the gray whales, the stars of the show are the staff at Camp Cecil de la Bahia. Abraham there coming toward us with some cool towels. And I'm going to forget his partner's name here next to him, but Brian? Jose Roberto with some really cool drinks to welcome us to our camp. I have to say I've been very privileged to visit a lot of tented camps, semi-permanent, permanent camps in Africa and elsewhere in the world. And Brian and Sergio and their incredible team have ticked every box with this camp. All the little luxuries that you want are there. And again, the warmest welcome at the very beginning was the perfect way to start this trip and to really feel at home in this very remote place. This is a nice elevated view of that sand spit that you saw in the map earlier. We would have come from basically the left here, dolphins out in this area around the sand here on the left, and down kind of past us on the lower right here is where the camp is located, and basically located on these sand dunes that separate Magdalena Bay, which is here on the right, with these mangrove lagoons. And the mangroves are all, again, back to the left-hand side of this photo. And this is the main area that you're welcome to after climbing up a little bit of a sand dune to get to the top of the dune and the camp. And here this oasis presents itself. And this is where you spend a lot of time at camp reading a book, looking at the view, looking at birds. They've got scopes there to look at the dolphins, the turtles, the birds, the view. This is where also you have all of your meals. And to the right of this photo, which you can't see, is where a lot of the magic happens in the kitchen tents. And we'll talk more about the incredible food here at Camp Cecil de la Bahia as well. But I mean, come on, this is a pretty special place to find yourself arriving. And what's really, really amazing about Camp Cecil de la Bahia, other than the whales and the marine life and the staff and the whatever else, is that it's just you. This is it. There are 8 tents, maximum 16-ish people plus the staff, um, out in this incredibly beautiful and idyllic place, with views on both sides. And it's just you. Pretty special. It's hard to find those kind of places in the world today. Yeah, and then there's these incredible tents. Super luxurious, comfortable, nicely appointed and designed, thoughtful design touches. And this is where the genius of Cecil, and we'd have to go into a whole webinar on its own to tell you more about who Cecil is, but she is a real person and someone whose vision for the decor and the design is behind every Camp Cecil that Todo Santos has opened over the past number of years. And I think this is truly her greatest artistic accomplishment is these tents. And this is by without question the most comfortable bed I've ever slept in on a safari. Sorry to everybody else where I've been on safari, but Cecil and Brian and your team found these extraordinarily comfortable mattresses, amazing linens. This is all luxury level everything. Everything smells nice and fresh and clean and like it should. The little touches, like the chandeliers here with LED lights that actually don't look like hospital lights, but actually have, a warm color to them. Lights in your lamps next to your bed. It does actually get cold here in certain times of year or certain days of the year. It's only open for 2 months, but you do sometimes need these really thick plush fleece blankets. But I'm telling you, this tent really sets the bar extremely high. In addition to a really spacious interior with really comfortable everything, as I said, there are in-suite bathrooms. These are composting toilets because of where we are. So that's important for you all to know for your guests. Some people may be a little uncomfortable with that, but I have to tell you, it is they do an incredible job of making a composting toilet feel luxurious. Real sinks with water. You use a little foot pump below the sink there to bring up the water so you can brush your teeth and wash your face and feel like you have fresh water. And you're also obviously in a saltwater environment between between Mag Bay and the lagoon. So it's nice to have fresh, clean water in your tent. Amazing. I don't know where you all found the soap, but it also smells just perfect, like it's supposed to. And just nice little touches. I didn't put a picture here of the towels. I took a picture of the towels because they are so plush and so soft, and they smelled so good, Brian. I wish I could convey sensory the smell of those towels was spot on. So you don't have a in-suite shower. There are 2 shower tents, which are basically sun showers. If you've ever been on a boat trip or camping, and you get a big sun shower, leave it out in the sun during the day. It soaks up the heat from the sun, and then you've got a nice warm shower. So there's a couple of those tents that are available for the 8 tents. So not everybody has their own shower, but this is again for the level of remoteness, this is pretty luxurious to have a really nice warm shower in the evenings. I'm going to take you all on a very quick 1-minute walk through the tents. Each tent this is a view from my tent. Each tent has a view of either the lagoon, which is one side of that sand spit, or of Magdalena Bay. And they're all idyllic in their own right, in their own views. So here's a short 1-minute walkthrough. I'll talk through it as we go through. So that's looking from the lagoon to the left through the sand spit. And you can see a little peekaboo view of the Magdalena Bay there to the right of the tent. Nice big zips, so easy to get in and out. You can wash your feet off. You may have seen a little wash basin outside, wash the sand off of your feet. Really comfortable chairs if you ever want to sit inside. not look at the view, probably not too often, but it's nice to have that in the evenings before bed. Yoga mats, which I did use, Brian. I used one. And then into your in-suite bathroom, there's those incredibly beautiful plush towels to the right. You can see the foot pump there at the bottom to pump water, your composting toilet. Nice little bureau to unpack. If we had been there longer, I would have unpacked. Um, and then this extraordinarily comfortable bed. It can be queen or twins, so they can be separated into two twins. And Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, but you can also bring in another bed or a cot for kids.
Absolutely. We can definitely have a triple.
And then there's two chairs right outside your tent where you can sit and look at the view, read a book, or just do nothing at all and just soak in this amazing, remote, beautiful location that you found yourself. So while you may not want to leave camp, because to be honest, it is so idyllic and comfortable, and you could just crack a book and never leave, kick your feet up and enjoy that location. There is a ton to do at Camp Cecil de la Bahia. So what do you do while you're there? Number one, whale watching. And the vast majority of your guests will go out to see gray whales because the gray whales come into the Magdalena Bay. As I mentioned, mostly mamas and babies. As you can see, the size of that mama whale is as big or not actually bigger than the boat. The grays are not the biggest whale in the sea, but they're pretty darn big. And if you're lucky, you might see a baby who's practically the size of the boat itself. There are roughly 300 odd whales that come into that bay throughout the season, is what our guide Chino told us while we were there. So the chances of seeing gray whales during those 2 months are extremely high. We probably saw about a dozen, maybe 15 whales over the course of 2 days, two different whale watches. There could be more, there could be less, but there's going to be gray whales. There's also the opportunity to go see humpbacks, but to do that, you have to go out into the Pacific, and that just depends on how intrepid your guests are, how much time there is, how good they are with their sea stomachs, whether they want to go out into the Pacific or not. What's nice about Magdalena Bay is because it is a bay, it's quite protected by Magdalena Island. It's not the right name of the island, is it? Yeah. So Magdalena Island, you may have seen on the previous map, it's a big, huge island with like, nice high hills on it as well. So it helps to protect that bay and keep the biggest swells out of the bay and cuts down on the wind and whatnot as well. So because of the bay, it does mean that it's, there's less roll. So if you do end up going out of the Pacific, which is possible to try to see humpbacks, you're out in the open Pacific, it can be a bit rougher. There's also a sea lion colony out on the Pacific side of Magdalena Island, which you can also go see. We saw sea lions in a raft floating around in the bay on our way to go whale watching, which was enough for us. But there's other opportunities to see sea lions in the rookery if your guests wish. But it's really about the gray whales doing the spy hopping. This is Brian's sister from a number of years ago, really connecting with the whales. And Brian, you always say it so well in your presentations about, these whales. You feel like you have, especially when they get this close and they're spy hopping, you can see their eye, that there is a mammal to mammal connection here. They're curious about who these people are, who these beings are, and they, in this case, sometimes even perform to the crowd as you tell this story. Every time this whale, she spy hopped up, everybody clapped in the boat uproariously, and she seemed to like it, so she kept doing it. So you can actually, unlike fish or whale sharks, which are, they're kind of not a lot of give back from a fish or from a whale shark. With these mammals and these whales, you can feel like you're actually having a mammal to mammal connection. They're responding to you as another mammal. And sometimes they get this close, sometimes they don't. It just, of course, depends on the day and how the whales are feeling. Sometimes they wake up wanting to be show whales, and sometimes not. But here's an example of where you are not allowed to approach the whales in your boat. The whales, however, can approach a boat, and this is the kind of interactions that humans and whales, two mammals, can have in Magdalena Bay. And as you can see, the day we were there, in the morning it was cloudy and foggy, which meant for really calm seas, which was nice. But despite that, our group was having a great time. The sun did come out shortly after and burned off all of that fog and mist. But it is something that there can be foggy mornings, and there can be one morning we had like this fog. We felt like we had been transported to another camp from the night before. And then the next day we woke up and it was bright, clear sunshine and felt like we'd gone back to the original camp. So it can be very changeable here, but generally speaking, it is warmish days and cool-ish nights. So you do want to bring your extra layers for sure while you're at camp for the evenings and potentially for the morning, especially when you're on the boats going relatively fast to get out to the bay. And you can see really comfortable boats here. A couple of chairs underneath here under cover. We were out in the front, James and I, as the replaying the Titanic, the two of us a couple of times. And here's Braulio, who is the owner of the boat and our captain, and our guide Chino here on the right as well. I don't know where Sergio is, Brian. He was somewhere. No, he didn't go with us that day. Never mind. I thought we lost him overboard. No, he was still at camp kayaking the mangroves that day. Speaking of another activity, you can go kayaking in the mangroves. If you're a birder, it's a great opportunity to see birds up close by kayak. There's also sea turtles, which actually Sergio saw that day we were out whale watching. He was kayaking with sea turtles in the mangroves. Dolphins also do come into the lagoon here, so it's a great way after whale watching just to get out and get a little bit of exercise as well. It is pretty tidal, this mangrove lagoon, so you have to time that. But of course, the staff there knows when the best time is to get out on the kayak. So great kayaks, and there's a great shot of this camp is to the left here, and look at these spectacular mangrove lagoons. You can see the sand spit here. This would eventually, at a certain tide, would be above water, but you can kayak into this beautiful lagoon with the right tides, and yeah, just have an amazing afternoon looking for stuff. Shucking scallops and fresh oysters with Pancho. Pancho is the guy that lives in Puerto Cancun. We met him when we arrived in our vehicle. He looks after all of the vehicles that 2C leaves there, looks after any stuff that needs to be looked after. And he also is a fisherman, has been for decades. And he came out to camp and showed us how we can open fresh scallops and fresh oysters. And we had a really nice pre-happy hour scallop and oyster tasting. He's a character, really, really nice man, and was really very, very open to talk about his life as a fisherman in this very remote part of Baja. Sandboarding. Unfortunately, we didn't get a chance to do this. We were short on time, but as you can see, we're on the sand dune. So plenty of dunes to be able to cruise down on a sandboard if whether you're a snowboarder or not. It's super soft sand. If you fall, it's like falling in fresh powder. And it's not a super long trip down. And I guess, Brian, I don't know how if anybody's been able to sandboard into the lagoon, but the sand goes right down into the water. So that's super fun, especially for families and kids. Great afternoon activity. As I mentioned, birding, whether that's by kayak or just from camp with the spotting scopes or your binos. Lots of amazing birds. I think I ended up with about 20 new life birds on this trip from Magdalena Bay. So plenty of great bird life for all you twitchers out there. As I mentioned, reading a book and or taking in the views, doing nothing at all. That's another great activity at Bahia camp as well. And this is just in front of the main tent, looking out over the dunes. Lagoon on the left, Mag Bay on the right. And what would any safari camp be without sundowners, whether you're in Africa or not? This was sundowners on the Pacific side of the lagoon. Abraham there mixing one of his signature cocktails. And there you have it. I mean, that's really says all you need to say. That spectacular sunset over Magdalena Bay and the Pacific beyond. That's Magdalena Island there, as I mentioned. That's what's creating the bay and shielding you from the biggest swells from the Pacific. But what a great way to end your day. And then look up after the sun has gone down, the stargazing. We were there on a full moon, so it wasn't quite like this. But if you're there on a new moon or other times of the month, the the stargazing. There's no light pollution whatsoever out here. So the stargazing is absolutely spectacular as well. And the guides know. Sergio did a little bit of a stargazing 101 for us at the Sierra camp before the moon got too bright a couple of days previously. And he and his guides, they all know how to tell a story about the stars. And what would an amazing remote safari camp be without extraordinary cuisine made on a two-burner stove, camp stove in a tiny little tent? This is essentially the meals that we had. These are professional photos, but this is what we ate while we were there over a course of 2 nights. Fresh seafood, obviously, kind of a caprese, a fresh take on the caprese salad in the upper left. Amazing desserts. You and your guest will not go hungry and will not want for anything when it comes to the cuisine. If you have guests that have any of the dietary restrictions, they can all be catered for as well. So that's just a key thing to, of course, let Brian and her team know well in advance. So it's not as if they can go around the corner and pick up, some beans if you have a vegetarian or non-gluten bread. So make sure that those types of things are relayed to Brian well in advance so they can prep for your guests dietary restrictions. But wow, the food truly, truly extraordinarily delicious. Okay, here's the nitty-gritty details, and we're getting close to our 30-minute limit here on our coffee with Kusini. So I'm trying to finish up here within the time frame. As I mentioned, it's open from about mid-January to mid-March. So really a small 2-month window. There is some talk, I won't give away too much, but of having an earlier opening next year, not for gray whales, but for another marine phenomenon that would be pretty exciting. So keep your eyes and ears open for that. But for now, we've got 18 departures from mid-Jan to mid-March. They are all 4-day, 3-night scheduled dates, 22.50 per person rack plus tax, and there's a 20% commission offered on that rack rate. So given all the work that this team does, how remote this is, the level of comfort, as you can see from the photos and the videos, it's a steal, frankly. And just the immersive marine experience you can have, not only with gray whales, but all the other marine species. Brian, maybe in a minute or two, just tell us a little bit more about all the work that you are doing as to see through your various organizations, sustainability organizations, as well as community impact organizations.
Well, I'll just touch briefly on Alianza Sierra Basura. And essentially, our goal is to make our community of Todo, Santos, and Pescadero the first zero waste community in Mexico. And that's when I'm not working on this, getting your dietary restrictions, that's really where I'm spending my time, is realigning our community's relationship with trash and creating the system so we can become a zero waste community.
And you'll see it when you visit Todo Santos or Los Colibris, the lack of plastic, obviously all of their camps as well, plastic free. So make sure your guests are bringing their reusable water bottles, and I know you're working very, very hard to make that community zero waste, which is an extraordinarily challenging goal, but I think you're well on your way to getting there. So congratulations.
And for next season at Mag Bay, we've implemented a new type of worm composting for both the organic matter and other matter. And so we'll actually figure out how to incorporate it. For those who are really environmental, really focused on how things work at a camp, we'll actually be incorporating talks around those systems. So that'll also be available. And also, we're going to do it on that island as well next year.
Very cool. All right, so 32 minutes, not too shabby. I think we were a minute late, so we're right on target here. What's next with Coffee with Kusini? We're going to unveil the new underwater room 2.0 at Manta on Pemba Island in Tanzania. That is actually the new underwater room there, that photo, which was sailed over from Mombasa in Kenya a couple of weeks ago, but it was just put in place in the same location as the old underwater room. For those of you that are familiar with it, this beautiful reef, just off 200 meters off the coast of Pemba Island. So Tuesday, April 7th, same time, 10 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time, 5 p.m. GMT. Join us to learn more about the new underwater room with Matt Souse, who's the owner and yeah, owner and chief ideas officer behind this incredible property and this amazing experience of the underwater room. Kind of aligns a little bit with Magdalena Bay as well, with this marine environment that you get to experience. And that's it. So thank you all for joining us. I think we have some questions that we can look at here. Or I think it's all just comments about wanting to go back to Baja. So yes, Jossie, Trista, yeah, you're all welcome. You need to come back and experience Mag Bay in this incredible camp. We
By the
appreciate.
way, both of you book your tickets.
Absolutely. And there are dates that are already sold out for 2027. So if you have guests that would be interested in this, please get in touch with us at Kusini and Brian to get you all the details and the dates that are still available. We would love for you to come visit as well, but also to send your amazing guests to be so well cared after by the team at Camp Cecil de la Bahia. Thanks everyone for your time today. Brian, thank you for joining us today, but also for the vision for this amazing camp, for working with the local teams like Braulio and Pancho to find this amazing location and to share it with the world and with your guests. It's really a labor of love, and you guys have absolutely hit a home run with it. So congratulations and thank you.
Thanks so much. And we really hope to see you all here. Thanks so much, Tad, Gretchen, Vanessa, everyone. Trista, bring your daughter, yank her out of school. You too, Cassie.